Yo, what's going on, guys? Chris Bonner here, Overtime Athletes. So for the next coached video, I figured I'd go with more of a power movement, and it's actually a ballistic power movement, the med ball broad toss. Some people call it the med ball chest pass. It's slightly different because we're using a little bit more power from our legs when we actually do this. I see a lot of athletes, a lot of coaches perform this movement. Not saying it's all wrong, but I just think there's a little bit more, I'm a little bit more methodical of what I'm trying to achieve when I apply this stimulus to the body. So to start off, you've seen a med ball broad toss before. What guys do is they take a med ball, they hold it at their chest and explode it out as far as they possibly can. Now, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to add resistance to a horizontal power movement so that I can then raise the threshold so that when the athlete goes to perform it, essentially, a similar movement, we can do it, we can train that by adding the resistance, right? So when they do it with their own body weight, it'll be a little bit more powerful, we'll say. So the first thing I'll do to teach the movement is I want the athlete essentially from a foot, or as far as their feet from the ground up, I want them directly underneath their hips, the same position they would jump in. I don't want them outside. This isn't really their power base. Anytime we're kind of doing anything from a power movement, I really like to teach them inside the shoulder, basically right underneath the hip, nothing outside the shoulder here. So from that position right there, feet squared up, right underneath the hips. Now from here, what I want them to do is I want them to grab the med ball and I want them to pull it to their chest. Doesn't necessarily need to be against their chest, but basically right at their chest. One thing that athletes do when they're holding a med ball is once they go to dip down and perform that movement, either med ball is too much and they can't properly decelerate the movement, or it comes off and really slows them down eccentrically during the eccentric portion of that. So what I want them to do is hold the med ball right to their chest. From here, the biggest thing is loading the hips. A lot of guys will just tilt forward and almost fall into it. What we want to do is we want to put the hamstrings and glutes on stretch by pushing the hips back the same way we perform an RDL. Now from here in this position, what you can see is my chin is tucked and my spine is neutral. And from this, I have my hips, I have my hamstrings and glutes on stretch. Now in the beginning of an off season, when I utilize this movement, I'll really focus on slowing down the eccentric so they properly load the hips and hamstrings and then are able to explode out. And then what you'll see later in an off season is you'll see me focus on going fast and explosive, even get a little bit more dynamic with it. So from a slow eccentric, you can see my hips go back, spine stays neutral. Now from here, I'm gonna generate the force out of my lower body. I'm gonna explode into a broad jump. And from here, I'm gonna transfer the energy through my torso and explode the ball into the wall or out as far as I possibly can, as fast as possible. Here we go, boom. Now, a couple things. As you can see, when I landed with 2 feet forward. You'll see some guys make a mistake of coming and then kind of doing like a gallop. Now, what that tells me is they're only utilizing power out of 1 foot. And that's when I'll try to get them and cue them to be able to explode and land as if they're performing a broad jump. The other thing, like I mentioned, another mistake is you'll see when they come down, either the ball is too heavy or they're not properly holding it, but you'll see the ball in the eccentric motion kind of come down and then they got to use so much arm. The goal here is to start with the lower body, keep a strong base, transfer that energy up, and just your arms are an extension of the lower body. So it's actually a total body movement. But we don't want to fight that and utilize a lot of energy by throwing the ball down. So keep it tight and explode out each and every time. Now, the reason why I'm going over this is because I absolutely love this ballistic movement. What that means is after that initial eccentric motion, it's just all focused on concentric motion, exploding out. Really working rate of force development. How fast can we produce that power? Usually what I do here is I'll perform anywhere from 6 to up to 15 throws, and I'll usually focus 1 at a time. I don't want to go repeated bounces. I don't want to go, hey, you got 5 reps continuously. I want 1 all-out movement, max effort, and then repeat, rest, and then repeat. Throw this in if you want to gain a little bit more horizontal power. I love this for football athletes. I love this for, obviously, because of the extension. I love this for any kind of team sport athlete to be able to generate power out of that lower body horizontally when keeping resistance there. So I hope that helps. Coach for you guys. I'll talk to you guys next time.